My name's Andrew Cromie. I'm from Ireland, from Cork, or originally from close to Belfast, but now living down in Cork. And I just, first of all, I'd like to thank MLA very much for inviting me to speak here to you today. I'd also like to thank you for turning the rain on for me and making me feel at home. Could you ever touch the temperature down a small bit and it would just be like being back in Cork. So look, I'm here to talk about the genetic and productivity gains achieved by the Irish cattle industry through a central data platform. I'm going to talk a wee bit about the Irish cattle herd. I'm going to talk about our experience of establishing a central data platform, how it has resulted in genetic gain for our industry, increased productivity gain, our current priority areas, and then there's a general discussion at the end. So just very much some background, the Irish beef cattle herd, and here we have some, mixed breed cows and calves and a nice green field. We have about 1 million beef cows, about 1.5 million dairy cows, and we produce about 500,000 tonnes of beef per year. Most of that's coming from our suckler beef herd, and it's mainly steers and heifers, some young bulls. 80% of our beef is exported, and it's very much a seasonal system, and the sort of figures that we talk about in terms of steer carcass weight, about 370 kilos at 28 months. So it's a different system, it's a seasonal system, and our animals are finished off grass at later ages than you would achieve here in this country. And it's grass-fed. And as you can see, well, if you only visited Ireland, you would know that that's the case. I mean, we're really, as I said, a crossbred beef cow herd. The main breeds being the Limousin, Angus, Charolais, Hereford and Simmental. And interestingly, no different to yourselves here, the Angus has grown rapidly, certainly in the last 5 years. No Wagyus yet, but I expect we'll start to see them over the next few years. Look, I suppose the main focus of my talk here today is really about a central data platform, because I know it's an issue that you're focused on here within the Australian cattle industry, and there's been a lot of discussions around it. Some key principles that have guided us in the context of establishing the central database in Ireland. First of all, you have to have a common goal and vision. In Ireland, we export, no different to yourselves, we export beef. We're focused on farmer profitability. If you don't have profitable farmers, you don't have a profitable industry. The principle of a rising tide lifts all boats. So in the context of data, there's a fundamental requirement that we should look to share data for the benefit of farmers and the wider industry. The benefit of that is, of course, you remove duplication. Duplication is an absolute pain in the neck for every farmer or people working in the industry here. It results in errors, problems, hassles. So it removes duplication. But one of the challenges with sharing data is it raises all sorts of issues with regard to data ownership and data access. And we've applied a very simple principle as we've operated the database in Ireland. The person that owns the animal, effectively the data moves with the animal. It's a very simple principle, but it's one that has worked very, very well with us over this last 15 years. So the individual farmer, or maybe the meat processor as he buys the animal at the end, actually all of the data goes with the animal. And you can switch on or switch off that access to that data to individual service providers, whether it's an AI company or a breed association or a veterinarian or whatever. That control is with the farmer. To facilitate that control, you need to have very, very strong agreements, user agreements with different stakeholders and user and service providers. And we've established that across the very large range of service providers that now operate services off the ICBF database. And we have a fundamental principle around R&D that the data is available for chagas, for universities, to help support the underpinning research that will ultimately allow us to drive better genetic evaluations for our farmers and for our industry. But I should say achieving all of that is not easy. I would suggest it requires a new entity. I mean, ICBF was established. DataGene here in Australia on the dairy side has been established in the last number of years around these principles of data sharing. If I look at it in the context of ICBF, who are we? We're an entity, a cattle breeding co-op of about 30 different organisations. The farm orgs, the AI companies, milk recording and co-ops and herd books, these were the entities that came together day one to give up the data that they owned to put it into this central database for shared services. And our government then have a role or a seat at the board as well. We have an operating budget of about 7 million euros or 10 million Aussie dollars. Importantly, about half of our income comes from, we call it industry good, which is your sort of longer term strategic money, and then 50% service income, which is the short term providing a service today for farmers around, whether it's milk recording or AI or genetic evaluation. And I would urge you, it's a very, very important principle to keep that balance between longer term industry good income and the short term service income, because very difficult for today's farmer to pay for issues that are going to be a fundamental challenge in the next 5, 8, 10, 15 years. And we've touched on some of those: greenhouse gases, climate, meat eating quality. These are all the newer issues that we need to be investing in. And as I said, we're based in Cork with a staff of 70, but we service 100,000 farmers, the 100,000 cattle farmers that are in Ireland. I mean, all of that sounds easy, and I'm going to give you a quick potted history of the last 15 years. I joined ICBF in 1998, fresh out of college, and it was exciting times. When I look back at the last 20 years, this is our Minister for Agriculture handing over to Brian Wickham. He was a Kiwi and New Zealander. All the best, or best of luck. You'll need it, and you can see lots of people having a good scrap in the background as they anticipated what this new cattle breeding database was going to be about. And this was the editorial from the Irish Farmers Journal whenever he arrived. Best wishes to Dr. Wickham. But I was really taken by the comments down here in the bottom right. I'm not sure if I don't think that is actually working, but you can see, what does it say? On the beef side, the scene is chaotic, with too many beef breeds, coupled with a lack of measurement of performance leading to poor bulls being used. The cost to farmer profitability is enormous. So these were the sorts of challenges that we were faced into, and we had all sorts of issues with sharing of data then. Breed societies clash with ICBF over the herd book. Should we join ICBF? Controversial move for ICBF to share data with factories or to integrate in data from meat processors. We were established in 2000, but even then it was testing time for the cattle breeding boss, Brian. At least there was one vote of no confidence, but managed to get through that. And then slowly things started to develop. Slow burner ICBF about to shed life in beef. That was 2003. And interestingly, one of the main commentators over that period, you can see that in 2010 he made the statement, ICBF has revolutionised cattle breeding and it is still driving development hard. So lots of progress, but let's not exaggerate or pretend that it's all perfect. We still have challenges, and that's we can talk about a central data platform, but what has that done? It's consolidated the data. But now where we've moved on to is the next issue. The next issue is driving a breeding program. How do you really get bull breeders to really increase the genetic gain? We've shifted the paradigm in breeding. It's away from visual. It's all about scientific profit-based indexes. And that's a huge challenge for pedigree bull breeders to get their head around. But our approach to that one is, well, we'll work hard and reward those that are embracing the change. And certainly our experience is that the best are responding. So this is what the database looked like in 1998, all these individual entities. And that's what it looks like now. I mean, we have meat processors, marts, milk co-ops, genotyping labs, vets labs. I mean, there's 30 million animals, 100 million plus records, services being run off the database daily to 100,000 farmers. So having all of the data in a single database, I mean, it brings us back to what ICBF are really about. It's about genetic gain. It's about profit from science. And our evaluations have evolved with the available data. Whenever we started in 2002, it was based on within-breed EBVs for the Limousin, Charolais, Simmental, Angus, Hereford breeds. Obviously, the integration and the bringing in of the crossbred data allowed us to move to multi-breed evaluations in 2005. Profit indexes then came in 2008, updated in 2012, and in 2015 we have genomics. I mean, at this stage we're running weekly genomic evaluations for 40 million animals in the pedigree. That's 10 million calving records, 7 million carcass records, over 1 million genotypes and foreign EBVs. So huge, in terms of evaluation terms, Huge numbers, and these are running then routinely for farmers and the industry. And one of the things that we've done as a consequence of consolidation of the data into the database have been very focused around programs then that help promote data quality. In terms of the indexes, we have two main indexes. We have a replacement index and we have a terminal index focused on profitability. As I said, it's a multi-breed system, and we operate on the principle of stars, so 5 stars being top 20%, 1 stars being the bottom 20%. And farmers have bought into that simple system very, very well. This just gives you a sense of what the replacement index, that's the female index, is. It's about, you know, the ideal Irish beef cow. At the end of the day, we want a cow that'll calve every year and have a good quality wean calf. I mean, that's the goal here. These are the traits. Well, we measure many more traits, but then these are the traits that are in the breeding objective. And what does all of that mean then to you as a commercial beef farmer? Well, it means that we can generate lists like this. This is our spring active bull list, and you can see that there's a whole range of different bulls and breeds there on that top active bull list, which then gives farmers lots of choice. But ultimately, the breeding programs are generated, you know, within the breed. It allows the individual breeds to identify the best for that particular breed. A big focus, as I said, on farmer recording. And a lot of people would have said, well, farmers can't record data accurately. Well, we asked farmers to record cow milk score, 5 being very good, 1 being very poor. People said they won't do it. They'll rubbish data and all that. We get a heritability of 35%, which is exactly the same as milk yield in dairy cows. So it actually tells you that farmers will and can record accurate data. And it's as a consequence of that we get accurate genetic evaluations. And this is just a bit of validation work that we constantly do. This one's around the terminal index. Professor Dunnaberry, who Ben knows, he talks about putting my bulls on the line, and every week these are the cattle that are being slaughtered as part of an MTI project. And you can see that and these are the commercial progeny, they all have a terminal index. They're being slaughtered at a younger age and with a better carcass weight than the average or the 1 star. And it's the exact same principle for the replacement index. You can see the 5-star cows, you know, have shorter calving intervals, shorter in terms of age at first calving, better progeny weaning weights relative to their live weights, better carcass weights. So it's telling you that the indexes are driving profitability on the ground. And this has allowed us to, having the data consolidated, has allowed us to have these large-scale beef genomics programs, such as what you might have heard of, where currently we have 24,000 farms and 600,000 cows involved in a really large genomics project where the farmers are recording or genotyping, recording data, no different to the previous speaker. But as part of that, they're getting an incentive payment to promote. Well, we're investing in the data and investing in the farmers. And what impact has this had? Well, it's had the impact of increased genetic gain. And if you can look at the terminal index, you can see a steady increase in that terminal index over the course of the last 15 years. That's the carcass trade index. And you can see it's increased by about €70 or 100 Aussie dollars. Total benefit, €580 million to our Irish cattle farmers. And that has been driven really by 2 projects, really, the database and the ICBF project, but then we had a project around the suckler cows in 2008, and I talked about the beef genomics project, which we just kicked off in 2015, and you can see already that's changing the type of cow and the profitability we're generating, so in the context of our suckler beef female. A bit back to one of the speakers had said about going in the wrong direction. We were going in the wrong direction on our cow traits, now we've turned it around. And all of this has resulted in very significant productivity gains. Examples of linking data from meat processors back to the individual farmers to give them really good benchmark reports. And this comes back to then into some really important metrics in the context of our beef cow herd, where in a short space of time we've gone from 8.8 calves per cow per year across the industry to 0.87. Very high levels of farmer recording. We've still more work to do, particularly in the area of age at first calving, but that's a new trait of interest for us. And productivity gains are really moving in the right direction as well. So in terms of carcass weight per gain per day, you know, they have increased from 0.4 to 0.42 for heifers, And that's in the course of the last 3 or 4 years. Look, these are just some of the current priority projects. The most important thing I would say to you in that, all of these projects are doable because of the consolidation of the data down into a central data platform. You get much greater buy-in from government, from stakeholders to be able to do big, ambitious projects like this. Puts us in a very, very strong place to make the case around why we should be doing this, why we should continue to make the investments. And this is just a genomics and meat eating quality project, and one where we're now trialling it, linking it right out to the consumer, out to the retailer. So look, in summary, establishing a common data platform has had a major impact on the profitability of Irish beef farmers. The 580 million euros, most of that's coming, 2/3 of that is coming directly from ICBF, the central data platform. And the creating this new entity has helped us then to manage on that platform in terms of the delivery of the projects, in terms of getting those productivity gains, in terms of implementing really challenging projects around multi-breed, genomics, dealing with breeds, driving breeding programs. And obviously international collaboration is something we look forward to as well in the future. Final thoughts I'll just leave with you. I'll put them up there, we can come back to them. There are challenges, it's hard work, it requires leadership. ICBF is a working example, it's not perfect, but the one thing I would come back to, there are so many similarities between Ireland and Australia in the context of beef production. I'd leave it with the point, in terms of the ability to consolidate that data. You can say, have you been involved or can you be involved in that partnership here in Australia? There is an opportunity now to do it, because you're the stakeholders that are involved in the industry with the opportunity to bring the data together for the future betterment of farmers and the industry in the future. It's in your hands, and I'd encourage you to be involved in that. Thank you.